Hey guys, Frightener22 here, welcoming you back to day 3 of my 31 Frightening Days of Halloween marathon. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at a film courtesy of my favorite collaborators in the entertainment industry, that being Tim Burton and Johnny Depp. So tonight we're going to be taking a look at their 1999 adaptation of Sleepy Hollow. Now, as I stated, this film was of course directed by my favorite director of all time, Tim Burton, who brought us such classics as Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Batman, Beetlejuice, as well as recent efforts like the 2010 version of Alice in Wonderland. And as well, as I stated before, this film stars the likes of Johnny Depp, who plays the infamous role of Ichabod Crane, and he's supported by other cast members such as Christina Ricci, Miranda Richardson, Michael Gambon, Casper Van Dien, Michael Gough, Christopher Lee, Christopher Walken, and Jeffrey Jones. Now, as you can tell, that cast is really diverse and really unique. I mean, you get a lot of old-style horror stars like Michael Gough and Christopher Lee, as well as a bunch of Burton alumni, and some new people that Burton hadn't worked with at that point, such as Miranda Richardson and Casper Van Dien. So there's a really cool, great difference in the cast, which is what I like, and I think that's one of the best things about Burton, is that he really not only tries to get people that work well for the cast, but just gets a really great, different vibe going throughout, and you really get that sense as you watch the film, so it's really cool. This film obviously is based on the classic story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, which is like a story that we all grew up watching, or reading and being told in grade school, and it's always like a film that people, or a story rather, that people feel like they've read inside out and they know everything about it, but on the contrary, when you actually strip it down, not many people have actually read the original story, myself included, and are actually very wishy-washy about the details of the story. I think we're just really all, we feel like we know it just based on the original Disney animated film, but on the contrary, it's a lot more detailed than that, and it's just one of those things that we just feel like seeing the images of the Headless Horseman throwing pumpkins, like we feel like we know the story. But the 1999 adaptation that Burton and Depp embarked upon is very true to the spirit of the original story that Washington Irving wrote, but they actually take a lot of creative freedom in this, and I'll get into what I mean by that in one second. This film was actually written by Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote us other dark-natured screenplays such as 7, 8mm, as well as the 2010 remake of The Wolfman. And this film goes a little bit different. Now, in this film, Ichabod Crane is not a school teacher. He's actually a detective at the turn of the century, 1799 in New York City, and he's a man that really relies on new scientific methods to kind of wean out the guilty in murders and what have you, and of course, this being the turn of the century, everybody's kind of thinking that he's a heathen and kind of a madman for wanting to operate on dead bodies and use all these new technologies and what have you. So, in a great scene in the beginning, Christopher Lee, who plays a judge, orders Ichabod Crane to go up to a little farmland that's a little Dutch community in a town called Sleepy Hollow, where a bunch of decapitations of the town people have been going on. So he wants Crane to go up there to use his new scientific methods to find the guilty party. It isn't before long that Ichabod Crane finally arrives in Sleepy Hollow and realizes that his thought process of using scientific methods and just pure logic isn't going to come in handy when he's dealing with forces beyond anything that he knows, and all just spirits beyond the grave, of course, being the Headless Horseman. Now, it's obviously different than what we expect, but it just benefits the story so much. I love that it's, that he plays a detective in this that has to do these things to try and find out what's going on. I just kind of feel like if they would have gone the route of using Ichabod Crane as a school teacher, I feel like it would have ran the line of being more faithful, but a little boring. Making him like a scientific detective at the turn of the century is way more interesting and way cooler. It's interesting to note that although Christopher Walken does play the role of the Headless Horseman, Marlon Brando was originally sought after to be to play that role. So I don't know whatever happened, if he just turned it down or it was an idea early in development. But he was originally considered, but that never obviously materialized. And another actress that was actually offered the role that eventually went to Christina Ricci, the role of Katrina Van Tassel, was originally offered to another Burton alumni, Winona Ryder, who of course teamed with Burton on Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands, and hasn't worked with Burton since Edward Scissorhands. But that would have been cool to see. But nonetheless, it was really great to see somebody like Christina Ricci, who has who always seems like she has like a dark sensibility, of course, like from her early appearances in the Addams Family movie. So I mean, seeing Burton and Christina Ricci finally work together in this film of all films was really a real joy, and it kind of bums me out because I love her performance in this so much. It's one of my favorite performances from her, and it's a real shame that she's never been used again in a Burton film, considering that Burton does use a lot of actors that he's worked with more than once. Johnny Depp, of course, being the biggest offender of that. But yeah, it's really interesting. Another interesting thing to know is that although Andrew Kevin Walker did write the screenplay, and Burton really did admire his original screenplay, Burton did bring an Academy Award-winning screenwriter Tom Stoppard to kind of serve as a script doctor to actually tone down the violence that Andrew Kevin Walker injected into the original screenplay. So for a guy like Burton, who's a big lover of monster movies and what have you, I would really like to see the original script and just see how much gore was too much for Burton. So that'd be really interesting to see. But I just love this movie so much because it really just captures that great old school vibe from those Hammer horror movies and those Universal classic monster movies. And at the tail end of the 90s, right at 1999, I absolutely put this film on top as one of the best horror films to come out of the 90s, at a time where horror wasn't really hot anymore, when you had big things like Scream that really take a spot on my list as one of the best films of the 90s. But this was really a great throwback film to horror films that just simply aren't made anymore. I mean, nowadays we really get a lot of people that are really into, doing these 80s throwback camp slasher films, and that's great because those are, great films in and of themselves, but you really don't get to see horror films today take themselves seriously to really capture a vibe and an essence of those great Universal and Hammer horror gothic films. So I think what Burton and his team in this film were able to accomplish was really magnificent, because it really just develops this great vibe. I mean, the costume design is unreal, the set design is just incredible, and I just love the screenplay in this. I mean, Ichabod Crane really has a great psychological profile in this, and there's a great murder, mystery, conspiracy that goes on in the film that I'm absolutely not about to reveal, because it just makes the viewing experience of this film that much more engaging and intriguing. It's really cool. I mean, it's way it surpasses what you would expect to see in a movie called Sleepy Hollow. You just think that it's going to be this, random spirit throwing pumpkins and offing people with, no sense or what have you. But it's way deeper in that. So that's one thing that I feel is a little overlooked when people talk about this movie, is just how great and sophisticated the murder, mystery, conspiracy is that's going on in this film. So it is really cool. And, another great thing to add is that constant music collaborator on Burton films, Danny Elfman, offers quite possibly one of his best scores ever. It is so haunting and eerie, and again, really captures that vibe of just an old style gothic horror film. And I mean, at this point in time, this was only the second rated R movie that Tim Burton ever did. Of course, he's done another one since, of course, the 2007 adaptation of Sweeney Todd. But I would love for him, to see what he accomplished in Sleepy Hollow. I would hope that he really pushes that envelope further if he ever gets his, the long in development Dark Shadows adaptation off the ground. Because what he accomplished in this, if it's even an ounce if Dark Shadows is even an ounce like Sleepy Hollow, then you know that adaptation is in good hands. In closing, guys, this is just a film that really needs to be dusted off the shelves this Halloween season, because it just really captures that great old school style of horror films that you just don't see anymore. So Sleepy Hollow really pulls it off and packs a punch this Halloween season, so absolutely don't miss this one. As always, guys, thanks again for tuning in to my Halloween marathon, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow with yet another review. This is Frightener22. Thanks again for tuning in.